Hello, Dr. Gale here with another bonus video. The focus of this video will be to show how to get around the world of Hyrule very quickly using the shortcuts that are part of the main game normally, but I'll be showing you how to access a lot of them without some of the required items usually necessary for them. We'll start off with Child Link, go through the shortcuts using the way Child Link get through them. Starting off at Link's house, which is where you start off every time you reset after you save the game outside of a dungeon. So it's a good spot to start. It's a shortcut on its own, just resetting back to Link's house. Luckily, Link's house is right next to the Lost Woods, which is a good hub for a lot of stuff, including Goron City, which is easy to get into. Normally you need explosives, but I've already shown a way to get early explosives in bomb shoes. So if you have bomb shoes, and you reset back to the forest, you can get to Goron City very quickly. Once you're in here, it's pretty typical, but getting into Goron City itself is a pretty nice little thing, and it lets you get to Kakariko from the other side. So it's a way of getting around Hyrule very quickly. I have the gate open, but you don't need this gate open at all to get through into Kakariko. Going back into Lost Woods, that way again is Goron City, but there's of course also a way to Zora River. Using this shortcut, normally you need the silver scale, but I've already shown how you could get through here without having that. I actually set up an angle walking into this part of the area to get the proper angle of this, but there's a lot of different setups that you can do. Here I spin to get a proper angle, and then the slash and the backflip are positioning, and then I side hop and slash right into the basically out of the level, but enough so I could reach the loading zone of that shortcut. And of course there's also a way to Navi dive. If you jump slash and talk to Navi, you fall through the water, which again I've shown off before. And now we're in Zora River. So there's lots of different ways to escape the Lost Woods through that shortcut. But now I want to show ways to get into Zora's domain. Again, a lot of different ways. I'll show a way to get into there without any items whatsoever, but it takes a bit of traveling. So we go all the way down Zora River. And what we're going to need here is our little chicken friend. We'll have to carry him all the way back up the river, but once we do that, we can use him to actually get into Zora's domain very easily. I mean, I have bombs and bomb shoes, but for this first way into Zora's domain, I won't be using them at all. You just need the chicken. So if you wanted to, you could get into Zora's domain right away. You would have to escape from the forest, which requires a sword or a stick. But once you do that, you just walk all the way down the river, grab the chicken, walk all the way back up, and then you can get in. Actually, very simply. I line up this jump here, getting the right angle. It's very simple, just a diagonal on the analog stick actually, and then you just jump right into the loading zone. Very simple. The chicken flies you in there, nice and easy. So we're already in Zora's domain. But that's not the only way in. That's just a way in without using anything other than a sword or a stick, which is just to get out. There's ways to use explosives to get in here. Again, all of this is to basically avoid using Zelda's Lullaby to open up the waterfall. So if we time a bomb shoe, using this angle, roll into it before it explodes, I can use the Mega Side Hop that I've used a couple of times in the main LP and explode myself into there. That time I timed it to when the bomb shoe actually explodes, but if you get Infinite Sword Glitch, you can just roll into the bomb shoe and the sword will actually explode the chew for you, so you don't have to do any timing. Two different ways to use bomb shoes to get in here. And all that, again, is just for getting past having to use Zelda's Lullaby, which I don't actually have. Now say we want to get back into the forest. I don't have enough dive distance to get back through that shortcut. I don't have the silver scale still. There is actually a way to still hit that loading zone, but it requires explosives. And it entails basically positioning myself manually like a caveman in about this sort of angle and position and mega side hopping through the geometry of the world into the water, and I end up low enough so that I could swim right into the shortcut, and now I'm back in the Lost Woods. It's a little tricky, but not hard, and you could do it with either explosives. but it entails knowing how to properly use them to side hop. A little tricky, again, probably not so big for players who don't know how to do many glitches, but it's an option. Alright, starting from Zora's Domain, there is another shortcut that everyone is aware of. Using this shortcut is the way you're supposed to get to Lake Hylia. Normally you use that for getting the bottle with Gerudo's letter in it to talk to King Zora with. However, even though we're in the area where you get the silver scale, we still want to see if we can get into that loading zone without having to get the silver scale. It takes a very long time. Long time for a speedrunner anyways. So what we do is we position ourselves in a certain way. This trick is actually very finicky, but it's possible. You back walk off of this ledge and a certain distance away from it. Right here, we're gonna jump. We're gonna pull our sword, jump slash basically, and it actually shoves us through the wall. I don't know exactly why this works. Maybe something to do with how wall collision works with Link's animation. I really don't know, but you clip through. And from here, what you do is you go to the boundary of the water and fall a little bit, and get back into the water, since the water is an infinite plane downwards. And from a lower part of the water, you could swim to the loading zone while you're floating up. That time I actually barely hit the loading zone. You can fall a little bit farther though, to be a little bit safer. And now we're in Lake Hylia. No silver scale. Now what I'm doing, I'm actually killing myself to reset the Navi timer, because I'm going to need Navi for this next trick. I've shown this trick off too. It needs Navi in order to do it, and I had already used her to show off the Navi dive earlier. So I reset her timer. And what I'm doing here is positioning myself like I did before, and if you notice, I actually did the jump slash slightly differently. The jump slash is a little bit differently. I shielded after one, I didn't shield after another. That gives you two different positions. And from here, I wait for Navi to show up, I jump slash and talk to Navi while it happens, and it makes you fall during that, and you can swim right in. So now we're back into Zora's Domain, using only the sword. So lots of different ways around. Didn't use explosives for either of those. We'll go back to Lake Hylia really quickly, just to go talk to this owl for a regular game shortcut that's intended. It talks to the owl, takes a very long time, but afterwards, he grabs you and actually takes you straight to Hyrule Castle, right at the gate, right in front of the drawbridge. Obviously, the designers knew that as Child Link, you don't have as many ways around. You don't have the warp songs that adult will have, at least until later. So they gave you a couple of things like this. This one puts you right in front of Hyrule Castle. So you travel all the way across Hyrule very quickly. Alright, now I'll show off some of the stuff as adult. A lot of those shortcuts will still work as adult, just in different ways. The owl obviously isn't there. But as adult, normally you start off going straight to Kakariko to get the hook shot, and from there you'd go up Death Mountain to get to the Lost Woods quickly. But if you already have stuff like I do now, there's other ways. I could actually go straight to the forest to get to the Lost Woods. But what I'm doing right now actually is I'm going to Gerudo Valley. There is no shortcut into Gerudo Valley, which is unfortunate. So the only way there is to walk or to slide, which is what I did. No shortcut, except for maybe the wrong warp that I've shown off before, from Dodongo's Cavern to Gerudo Training Ground. But other than that, this is the fastest way there if you don't have to kill King Dodongo or do that dungeon at all. You just have to walk, slide there. Now I'll show off a couple ways to actually get across this bridge. Normally you're supposed to cross it with a Epona or have the long shot. But there's other ways. I have the hover boots, and if I do a mega side hop and put on hover boots during it, I actually get enough distance to get across. It's a very fun trick. You can also just do a regular super slide. I time it wrong here. All you would have to do is you start a super slide near the bottom, and then put on hover boots while it's happening, and the hover boots will slide you across. Now, if you don't have hover boots, there is another way, but it's also a much more precise trick and a much harder trick to do. A lot of people have trouble with it. A lot of people who are learning how to speedrun have a lot of trouble with this. I'm getting a very precise position and a very precise angle here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a very precise mega flip off of this bomb. A lot of people have, like I said, a lot of people have trouble with this. It's not always consistent. There's been a lot of different setups over the years. This is the one that's been the most consistent for me. I flip back over here and I landed right on this peg. Again, very, very risky and very hard to learn. But from here, if anyone's ever fallen in this river, you would know that this is also a shortcut to Lake Hylia. As a side note, there is a way across that gap with just the hook shot. I just decided not to show it off, and it's a little bit tedious to set up, but it is possible. Alright, so now we're in Lake Hylia. Another sort of, I guess, a fast way here. This won't be the fastest if all you have to do is go to Lake Hylia. If you just have to go to Lake Hylia, you'd be better off walking there than going through Gerudo Valley. But if you're in Gerudo Valley, then this is a fast way to Lake Hylia. And from here, as a kid, we used the Navi dive to hit that loading zone, but there's no water here as an adult, so that's not what's preventing you this time. What's preventing you from hitting the loading zone this time is that there is a block in the way, or some kind of wall right there. They don't intend for you to use this as an adult, but the loading zone is still there. We can actually hit that loading zone still as an adult using a couple of tricks. You need the hover boots in order to do this, but if you have them, all you need after that is just a bomb. So I'm going to set up another super slide and I'm going to pick up this piece of grass. And if you remember, I used a similar process to get into the Shadow Temple. It's going to be the same basic glitch. I get lower than the grass, put on hover boots, and end the super slide, and then that actually puts me below the level. And from there, the hover boots slide me back, and I jump slash right at the end, right into the loading zone. It's a fun trick to do, and it's a similar trick as the way I got into Shadow Temple. I transport back to the grass, but lower because his vertical height is lower. So it puts you below level, and I stick on the hover boots so that I actually stay up. The hover boots put a platform for me to ride back on, and then I jump slash right at the end. And from here, we can get into Lost Woods using the exact same trick we did as a child. I have to line it up again from here, and then just mega side hop. And what you could actually do too is you could super swim into the loading zone. It makes it a little bit easier because super swimming lets you stay lower in the water for longer. This is not the only way into Lost Woods. Like I said, going up Death Mountain from Kakariko is usually faster just because you're already in Kakariko for the hook shot. But from here, again, you're back in the Lost Woods. Nice hub for the game that the game intends for you to use. You can get into Goron City that way. And now we're going to actually go back through this loading zone. But again, we don't have the silver scale, and I never got it. Still don't have it. There's another way to clip through that only works as an adult, since the same thing doesn't work for adult as a child. You hang off of this ledge, fall off, and jump slash. That was a failure, but this is the trick that works. Hang off, fall off, slash, and you actually end up in that portion of the block there. And I could just swim into the loading zone. Or again, I can also use the Navi dive, which does still work as an adult. So now we're back in Zora River. And from here, if I wanted to get into Zora's domain, again, a lot of the same tricks work. I can use a bomb to mega side hop in there. There's also ways to mega flip. I just find the mega side hop easier. And there's also a very easy way using hover boots. So if you have hover boots, you get sort of the same angle. Put on hover boots while you have a little bit of momentum, and you can simply backwalk into the entrance to Zora domain. So very simple. Now one last shortcut. If you wanted to get back to Lake Hylia from Zora's domain, well, we can actually do that. Again, the game doesn't intend for you to do that at all, but the loading zone is still there, still down there. You just can never normally reach it through the ice. But again, we have a lot of tricks in our bag. If we actually get off the ladder here, try to grab it, the ladder sort of pushes you through the wall, and if you fall off and slash from that position, you actually just go out of the level. And from here, I just jump out and jump slash back into the water and swim back into the loading zone to get to Lake Hylia. A lot of different ways around Hyrule, a lot using glitches, using loading zones that they normally there, but also you're not supposed to sometimes. So I hope that was informative. Thanks for watching.